Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for the ultimate Star Wars Vintage Collection podcast, Wretched Hive, with your host, only Kenobi.
Hello there, this is Only One Kenobi, only one, and I'm just absolutely mega excited to do this podcast now, because I've been dying to talk more about Galaxy's Edge, and I'm very proud to introduce to the show now Josh from Resort TV1. So Josh, thank you so much for joining me, man. How are you?
Great, thanks for having me.
Awesome, that's great, man. Do you know what, I was thinking about this, Josh, it's funny that obviously we're going to keep it specific to Galaxy's Edge, but I could do a whole podcast just talking about you and your channel and talking about classic Disney attractions, you know, from yesteryear. But for anyone who isn't,
sure, yeah.
for anyone who isn't familiar with Resort TV1, in fact, Josh, would you like to tell us a bit about your channel just to start us off?
Sure. Well, we're a YouTube channel that focuses mostly on Walt Disney World here in Orlando, Florida. We do a little bit of Universal and a little bit here and there. We've done SeaWorld a couple times, but we'd like to branch out a little bit. But we're mostly Disney World right now, and we have just over 51,000 subscribers now. We've been doing a lot of growth lately. We live stream every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. I guess that's about 5 hours later over there in the UK, so it's a little bit late for those in Europe, but it is a lot of fun, and you can catch the replay if you're not able to watch live. So we just have a lot of fun. We have a great community, and we just love Disney, and we love sharing it.
Awesome. I just wanted you to introduce your channel, because as I say, I could honestly do an hour's podcast just talking about Resort TV1. It is by far my favourite YouTube channel, because I just want to say as well, Josh, the reason I found your channel was because it's all to do with algorithms, isn't it? Because I saw, I think it was a live stream that I first sort of came across. But as it turns out, I looked at some of your old archive, and I'd liked lots of videos, like your video, some of your stuff on Horizons from a while ago. But the one thing I love about your channel is your relaxing strolls. Now, a lot of my subscribers are collectors of Star Wars, but no doubt so many of them will have also been to Disney parks. But it's just...
for sure.
What you do is you capture the essence of those parks with your relaxing strolls, and you just give it to us, you know, what we love about the whole ambiance of the place. So that's what's fantastic.
Well, one of the reasons I started that, just real quick, is the relaxing strolls and just the way that we do our channel. You've noticed our live streams and our vlogs and our relaxing strolls are different probably than a lot of other YouTubers. A lot of YouTubers focus more on themselves, and we focus more on Disney. And, you know, I think that we have a lot to add, you know, to the conversation ourselves as well. But we feel like we want to let the parks speak for themselves. So I saw somebody write this the other day, and I love this quote. It's less face and more place. And I think that's kind of where we are with it. You know, it's funny because people will join our live stream, and they'll never have met us or seen us before. And so they'll like, oh, go to selfie mode. We want to see what you look like, because we just hardly ever show ourselves because we are more content kind of, you know, just letting people see Disney through our eyes. And so that's really what we're about.
Absolutely. I rub my hands together. If I see that you've done an upload, you know, relaxing stroll around Frontierland or anywhere like that, I just think to myself, right, I am in for a treat. So I love it. So I can't plug your channel enough, man. Oh. Anyway, so Galaxy's Edge is the big thing, and the last time I was at Walt Disney World Resort was 1999 as well. But I went to Disney World throughout all the 90s, so I'm very familiar with the history of, especially now it's the 30th anniversary of Hollywood Studios. But Galaxy's Edge is the big news. Really looking forward to it. The very sad news for myself is that I'm going to be there at the end of July and the beginning of August, so I just miss the opening of it, which is the 29th of August now, I believe. Is that correct for Walt Disney World?
Oh, wow, yeah, it is supposed to be the 29th of August. I'm hoping they don't push that back, but I was actually quite surprised that they decided to do it at that time frame, because honestly, they had talked about Walt Disney World being more, you know, close to late fall, like we're talking November time frame. And then, you know, Disneyland was going to be maybe late summer, and now they pushed both forward several months. So it's interesting they've done that, and of course they're only going to have one of the two rides open at each park. And so I guess that's the compromise that we're left with. So
do you know something as well, Josh? Is it a blessing or a curse that, I mean, I'm stoked for going back to Disney World after 20 years. But is it a blessing that it's maybe not going to be open when I'm there? Because it's going to be... I wanted to ask you about the capacity of the whole park. What's it going to be like when it opens there?
Well, it's going to be pretty insane. The whole thing will be very insane. And I was there for Toy Story Land grand opening, and it was crazy. I'd never really seen the park like that before. And even Animal Kingdom, I was there for Pandora grand opening as well. And Animal Kingdom's a larger park than Hollywood Studios. And so it handled the capacity well, and the rest of the park was actually fairly dead. Everybody was just fighting to get into Pandora. Hollywood Studios is not going to be like that. Hollywood Studios is a much smaller park, even with the addition of Galaxy's Edge. And Disney World is going to be much different than Disneyland, because Disneyland has a reservation system where you're not going to just be able to waltz right into Galaxy's Edge on opening day. You're going to have a reservation.
Right.
And so that should keep things more reasonable in California as far as touring Galaxy's Edge for the first couple days and weeks that it's open. I think it's going to be like that throughout the summer, reservation only. So
right.
I think at Walt Disney World, it's every man, woman, and child for themselves. And so you just kind of go in there, and it's going to be interesting. There were, at one point, there were 6 to 7 hour wait times to get into Toy Story Land, and that was Toy Story Land, which is not nearly as popular as what Star Wars is going to be. I mean, Toy Story Land to me was just an appetizer for Star Wars.
Yeah, wow, just to get to set it all up for what's going to happen next. It's the biggie, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. I wondered what are the chances, do you think, of there being some kind of soft opening? Because harken back to 1992 when I was there. How old was I? 11. We got on the soft opening of Splash Mountain. 1993, soft opening of Jaws at Universal. 94, soft opening of Hollywood Tower Hotel in July. Then 1999 when I was there, soft opening of Rock and Roller Coaster. So for me at Disney, I feel like I've been blessed with soft openings. What are the chances of them ever opening it before the 29th? Not the attractions, just the area to get inside.
It's very, very slim, because I think unless they break protocol, they have not been soft opening lands. They might soft open a ride, but they have not been soft opening lands. And the reason for that is they want that wow factor when people come in the first time. The other thing is the media. And we don't yet have media passes, unfortunately, but the media comes in a few days before, like usually 2 to 3 days before the grand opening to the public. And the media even have requirements for what they can and can't publish ahead of time. Like you can publish bits and pieces of the ride videos, but you cannot publish an entire ride. I remember some of the people with media credentials saying they couldn't publish all of Na'vi River Journey or all of Flight of Passage, just little snippets of it. So when Pandora opens, so the chances of them opening Galaxy's Edge early are slim to none. Except for there will be cast previews, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure.
I was fortunate enough to get to go to a cast preview for Toy Story Land, which was absolutely amazing, but it was a very strict no camera policy, and in fact, if the cast members were caught with cameras at all themselves or any of our guests, they would be terminated.
Right.
So it was very, very strict. They did not want images of Toy Story Land getting out to the public before they were ready to release it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So that's why I think that the soft opening is going to be very slim chance, because they are so closely guarded on this. The hype is so real right now. If they just say, oh, by the way, we're going to open it to a few people, then they've opened the box and they've kind of made it not as special. So I think that they want to keep that wow factor and that, oh my goodness, it's open, everybody's so excited. They want that big blast when it opens.
Do you know what, Josh? I'll be honest, I feel stupid asking you that. I only put that out there because that's purely my wishful thinking. But of course they would never open it, because it's not like a ride, as you say. It's an attraction, and the whole buzz is what it's like when you walk through those gates and see it, you know?
Right.
Amazing.
Well, I honestly wish, I understand, because we've been to Disney World a few times when we lived further north, and we had to come, just in the summer, and we came before attractions opened. I remember Test Track opened like a few weeks after we were at Epcot, and we were so bummed that we didn't get to do any soft openings, And they did soft openings for Test Track, for Rock and Roller Coaster, for all these different attractions, but I think, like you said, when it's just an attraction, it's not a big deal. You know what it looks like from the outside. You can walk by it. But, Splash Mountain, same thing. Everybody knew what it looked like. It was right there.
Yeah.
So I think, unfortunately, they probably will not open it early.
In this day and age as well, when you've got channels like yourself filming in 4K, it's going to be like, I'm going to come home from being at Disney World. I won't be able to get in, unfortunately, but still, I'll be able to come back and see what it's like on YouTube. So exactly why they keep it very guarded, I guess.
Right, and that's part of it, but they also know with channels like us, and I think this is why we work so well with Disney, is that they really, us to promote the parks, but
Yeah.
not, spoil it.
Yeah,
In other
exactly.
words, people don't just say, oh, well, I watched your video, now I don't have to go to Disney World. Well, no, come on. Who's going to watch a Star Wars, what true Star Wars fan is going to watch a Star Wars Galaxy's Edge vlog and say, oh, okay, I'm good, I don't need to go.
Exactly.
No, you're going to want to go experience it for yourself, of course.
Absolutely. It's like what we said before, what you capture on, it's Disney is an experience. If you've not been, you've not fully understood the experience. It's the sights, the sounds, and the smells of the place that I love it, and it feels like I was there yesterday. I can't wait to go back. So it's fantastic. And with regards to the look of it, I hope when I go myself to capture a little bit of the construction. I know that people can do that from the top of the Slinky Dog, and there's various things you can see. But as for the look of it, I wanted to tell you this, Josh. It just reminds me so much of the rocks around Galaxy's Edge, Big Thunder Mountain, the rock. You know what I mean? It's got that style.
Yeah, it does. And to me, this is weird. And I know, like you said, a lot of your listeners are diehard Star Wars fans. I'm a Star Wars fan, but I am not a very educated Star Wars fan. So please, if I offend anybody with what I'm about to say, please forgive me. I love Star Wars. I just honestly have not had time to put a lot of research into it, like I have other things. And so, but I've watched devotedly every single movie and have been excited for this for years, just like everybody else. So that's a caveat there. But I will say, when I look at Galaxy's Edge, and I've gotten some great views of it, not just from there's one good view from the road that I cannot get on film because I never have anybody in the car with me, and it's just dangerous to fumble around with the camera when you're going. It's on an exit ramp. There's a certain exit ramp when you're coming out of Hollywood Studios that goes really close to Galaxy's Edge, and it gets a great view, but I'm not going to drive off the exit ramp to get a video. So anyway, when I'm looking at Galaxy's Edge in these different angles that I've seen it from, what it reminds me of is actually a little bit more lush, a little bit more forested version of Tatooine. I think the buildings are very Tatooine-esque, and I think there's a reason for that. I think Disney understands that, was one of the first major locations, in the Star Wars franchise, and people identify with that building style. So yes, it's not in the desert, I don't think. At least that's not what it looks like. It looks more wooded and more forest. There's trees around it, at least for now, that I can see. Yeah. And the rock formations, like you said, are a little bit different. Even the coloring is different. It's not sandstone, but the buildings and the architecture, it reminds me of Tatooine a lot. I don't know what you think about that.
Absolutely, I thought the same. I actually wrote some notes before the show. It's got that dry look like Tatooine, but the forests, Endor, as you know, is that's more like a kind of the redwood forests, obviously, of California. But I think Yavin was more of a jungle kind of planet from A New Hope, but it's a bit like in between. Exactly what you just said there. Brilliant. So it totally feeds everybody's nostalgia there. Totally.
And that was one concern that I think a lot of people had. I read an article, and I can't remember. It was one of those it was a major. It wasn't a Disney publication. It was like a BuzzFeed or I can't know. It wasn't BuzzFeed. It was one of the big tech blogs, and I can't remember what it was. But anyway, I read an article, and it was funny because it was a pro and con. It was for and against. It was why you're going to love Galaxy's Edge because it's not exactly taken out of any Star Wars movie, or why you're going to hate Galaxy's Edge because it's not taken out of any Star Wars movie because it's its own location. It's an extension of the story. It's not part of any of the mainline movies at all, or any of the movies. So the interesting thing is the points for that you're going to hate it is people are going to be disappointed. They're not going to see a lot of the characters that they've grown to know and love. And when Universal did Harry Potter, okay, they got to build Hogwarts Castle. That was a no-brainer. There's Hogwarts Castle. Here's Hogsmeade. And then later on they built Diagon Alley, which was probably the next most iconic place in the. And I was blown away walking to those places in person. And I can't wait for the reaction. Even to walk into Galaxy's Edge, I think my reaction was more emotional probably walking into Diagon Alley because I'd seen it before.
Yeah, sure, man.
And so I'm wondering if I'm going to be blown away because, oh my gosh, Star Wars Land. There's not going to be that familiarity other than, like you said, it does kind of look like Tatooine. It does, it does borrow from several different types of architecture from the Star Wars franchise. So, but part of me wonders if people are going to be like, okay, where's Luke? Where's
I know.
Where's,
I
don't know.
That's funny because they said that it's supposed to be set between The Last Jedi and Episode 9, and you're right, aside the Millennium Falcon, everybody knows, no spoilers everybody, Han Solo is no longer part of that timeline, but because of the Falcon being there, and because of the fact that I felt anyway with the Force Awakens, I thought was fantastic when it came out because it really felt brand new, but it was just so nostalgic. It was very familiar and warmly familiar. I know a lot of people have picked it apart now and said, oh, they've used aspects of A New Hope and stuff, but I think this is going to be the same thing. And, you know, Disney know what they're doing when it comes to making a land. And you're going to have to help me out with things like Pandora because I've never been. It's way after my time being there. But I just think it's going to really work, you know. I don't know, but you're right. It's going to be missing Luke and all that, but nah.
Well, but at the same time, the other article saying you're going to love it, and I think that it's going to be popular. The point in that article was that you know, even more so than Harry Potter fans, Star Wars fans, there are a lot of very puristic people out there that are just like, if it's not exactly right, then they get very upset. If
Sure.
It's not, you know, and then people got upset with the directors of the latest films for, you know, lots of reasons, and of course that's a lot. You know, that could be like 10 podcasts, but you know, I'm up with it enough. I understand some of the complaints people have against the latest movies. I honestly liked them just because I'm kind of the person. I just go and I just experience it. I don't have a lot of preconceived notions about things, so I think I probably will love Galaxy's Edge because I'm going to go in with no preconceived notions. I'm going to just enjoy it for what it is and not try and pick it apart. But at the same time, I think it's going to be hard even for the purists to pick it apart because it's not ever been done before. If they tried to build Tatooine, people would say, now wait a minute, this building's not over here, and that's not over here, and this is not where the Falcon actually parked, you know, in whatever. And so there would be a lot of, you know, there'd be a lot of, I think, people trying to pick apart if they tried to build one of the main worlds in Star Wars. So I think that does work to Disney's advantage, that nobody's ever seen this planet before, nobody's ever seen this town that they're building, and so I think people will hopefully even the purists will be able to relax and just enjoy it for what it is.
Absolutely. It's funny that your last video, you know, your Tom Sawyer Island, your relaxing stroll on there. I was thinking this about, you know, Galaxy's Edge. As I say, I've not been to Pandora. I can't wait to sort of see what that is like when I get over. But Tom Sawyer's Island is just an experience, isn't it? It's a place you can roam and see and feel everything there. And then after that, obviously, they've got Pandora now, which is, obviously, it's not like Tom Sawyer's Island. But it's the same kind of thing that you get with, I mean, when I went to the Animal Kingdom in 1999, when it was sort of like a year after it opened, that was another kind of thing as well that you could, as I say, I've not been to Pandora, but I can sort of imagine how good it's going to be at Galaxy's Edge, just given how well the Imagineering is, what a great job the Imagineers did with like the Animal Kingdom. It's just fantastic to look at.
I think it's going to be pretty amazing. I mean, honestly, and I've heard, you know, I don't get a lot of inside information, but I do hear from people that know things, and sometimes every once in a while under condition of anonymity and whatever. And you know, I don't really know anything more than anybody else does. But one of the things that people keep telling me in messages and in person, and people that know what's going on, that I keep hearing this over and over again. And I never heard this about Pandora. I heard Pandora was going to be amazing, but I never heard this particular thing. I never heard anything about Toy Story Land. Yeah, it's going to be nice, you know, whatever. But Galaxy's Edge, I keep hearing over and over and over again, this is going to be the most amazing thing Disney's ever done, especially when you ride the Rise of the Resistance when it finally opens. You know, it'll open a few months after Galaxy's Edge opens, but they're just saying this is going to be the best thing Disney's ever done.
Wow.
They understand they have to get this right. They understand what's at stake here. They understand the Star Wars is arguably the biggest franchise ever, you know, in history. They understand movie franchise. They understand. That's arguable, of course, but you know, we'll go with that for now. But
absolutely, man.
They understand what they're dealing with here.
Yeah.
You know, just like Universal did with Harry Potter, we can't screw this up. This is a big deal. We've got to get this right. And so I think, from what I have been told by everybody, that this is going to be mind blowing, and that, you know, Disney is pulling out all the stops on this. No expense has been spared. There were a lot of expenses that were spared in Toy Story Land, and it's quite obvious. There's only one air-conditioned space in the whole place, and that's the bathroom.
Yeah.
You know, so Toy Story Land was a little bit of a disappointment for me, even though it's fun. But I think Galaxy's Edge is going to be everything we think it'll be and more.
Wow. I mean, they know how to do it. Disney know how to make a theme park. That has been tried and tested since way back with Disneyland, and that's what I was trying to say with Animal Kingdom. I mean, that's an example of how well how good it is. But the other thing is as well, Josh, is that Star Wars, Lucasfilm being in the hands of Disney, is like for years now, and I'm sure you'll agree with me with this, what with the history of the Disney MGM studios, and going right back to Star Tours, even with George Lucas's connection with Disney, with Alien Encounter, Captain EO. I mean, when they announced that Disney were acquiring Star Wars, I was absolutely made up with it. I thought it was a fantastic match made in heaven for like a space fantasy genre. Who better to deal with it than Disney?
Right. Yeah, I think, if you're going to build something like that, I think Disney is the gold standard for sure of theme parks. And I have to say, as a Disney fan, they've slipped a little bit in recent years. They really have. They slipped just a little bit in some things. And I think that the stockholders have gotten the better of them on a few things. And I think that they've cheaped out on a few things. I'm just being honest. But
Wow.
I think that they're starting to find their groove again a little bit. They've got some new people in some new places, and they're really starting to wake up a little bit. And also Universal's been doing some good things too. I mean, they've got a new roller coaster coming out with the Hagrid's Forbidden Forest journey, and they've got Super Nintendo World coming in the distant future at some point. Universal's got some things in the pipeline, and I think the cool thing for us that live in Orlando and those of us that visit Orlando is the competition between these two companies.
Oh, yeah.
Is good for all of us. It's good because some people say. I was going to say, some people will just go and say, I only like Disney. I will not go to Universal. And I'm always of the mindset, I'm open-minded. I'm always going to love Disney more because of the magic.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to give Universal a chance, and I appreciate them for pushing Disney to be their best. And I really feel like Disney would have slid back even further if Universal was not nipping at their heels all the time.
Yeah, it's good to have two companies that push each other on. I was going to say about the Hagrid coaster, the Tron coaster, that might be something similar when you're on a bike. You know what I mean? So Disney are going to strike back with Tron,
Yeah, it's kind of funny that those are going to be, be similar in the bike aspect. One set very much kind of in the rustic era, and one set in the future. So it's kind of going to be kind of interesting.
But when I was a kid, though, I always wanted to go to Universal. This is like going back to 1990, 91, 92. This is when I was very young, going as a family holidays. I always loved the billboards for Universal. They always used to blow me away. Confrontation, and used to see the billboards for Earthquake, and I used to think, wow, I really want to go to that park. Now I'm, when I go back, I'm strictly going to be on property. I'm not going to be going anywhere else. But it's crazy to think that the very first ever studio park anyway was Disneyland. So it had been done yonks ago by them. You know what I mean? So there is this competition, but Disney are like the industry leader, I believe, for making theme parks. Yeah.
Well, they were the first ones, and Walt believed that a theme park could be a nice place, an amazing place, and a place that families could go. It didn't have to just be some junky amusement park that was kind of more like a dirty carnival that you see, all over the place, almost like a circus type atmosphere, was what people were used to during that time frame. That, the carnival's in town, okay, it's fine, but the rides are kind of rickety, and the adults don't really ride the rides, and, the people that work there may not be that friendly or whatever. And, I think, it's kind of like the county fair, the carnival draws a certain crowd, and I think, some people aren't comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And whereas the Disney, Walt had this idea about making the park beautiful, and that's why I'm so excited about Galaxy's Edge, because I think, Walt tried to design the parks with beautiful gardens, landscaping, and just immerse you in everything. And people told him when he first started to do that, that's not a good idea. People are just going to trample your flowers. They're just going to mess up your landscaping. They're just going to ruin everything. They're just not going to do it, because they were thinking of, kind of almost like a demolition derby crowd or something, kind of a rough crowd that would not be respectful. And Disney was like, well, first of all, we want everybody to come, and we're just going to teach people how to behave in a theme park, because nobody's ever been to a theme park before, because we're building the first one. So I think that's kind of where Disney got on with that. They kind of taught people, look, we're going to build this, and you're going to respect it. I mean, they remove people who don't respect their property, of course. So I think they're able to do these things that have never been done before, because they were willing to shoot higher than everybody else ever had.
Awesome. When you were saying earlier about the quality of the park, I was watching the Diz Unplugged. They had a little podcast about Galaxy's Edge, and they had, I think her name is Carly Wiesel. She was a journalist. She got into Galaxy's Edge, I think this is about a month ago. and they had to go in with, they had hard hats and goggles at that stage, but they still saw enough to see that it was, really far down the line. And even she said that, she's a journalist. She had to go in critically, but she actually was really mesmerized by what she saw. And she isn't even a hardcore Star Wars fan. So I just wanted to mention that because you were saying before about the fact they're going to do such a good job on it and everyone is buzzing about it. And when you hear things like that, it sounds pretty good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The size of it too. This is the single largest park expansion they've ever done. I mean, it's basically the only thing they've done bigger than this is just build whole new parks. They've never done an expansion this large before, and that's at both. Of course, Disneyland is a little bit more compact, but they are just wizards with space, and they've managed to fit basically everything that's at Walt Disney World into this compact area of Disneyland.
That's it. Famous words of Walt, land. 43 square miles of land. Brilliant. You could do all the ideas, whatever he said that we could possibly imagine. Right. That was a bit of a dodgy impression of Walt Disney there. I'm sorry about that, Josh. But
That's okay.
I was gonna ask you something as well, because when I was last at I should need to stop calling it MGM Studios, Disney's Hollywood Studios. They had the Streets of America up. Obviously, Catastrophe Canyon was there. So I wanted to ask you geographically, I'm trying to get to the bottom of where things are. So where Toy Story Land is and where Galaxy's Edge is, how does that relate to Streets of America, the Golden Girls house and all that part of the backlot, and also Catastrophe Canyon?
So Star Wars, Galaxy's Edge is basically being built where all that was. Toy Story Land is kind of where... some of there were office buildings and things back there.
Oh yeah.
My brother was in the college program and actually worked at some of those. There were office buildings, parking garages, and I'm relying on some sketchy memories here, so forgive me. But and then even in that area was I believe in Toy Story Land area was the boarding area for the studio tour, the backlot tour, which included Catastrophe Canyon. But then once you get back into actually Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, that is where, of course, part of that was Streets of America. Part of that was because they closed off Streets of America beyond Grand Avenue there. Just beyond the Muppets is where it's closed.
Okay.
The gate to Galaxy's Edge is. And so, talking about two different sides, you used to be able to walk from Muppets around by the backlot entrance, the backlot tour entrance, and then back around in by... the other side over there, which would take you back down to the animation tour and things like that, and the old Toy Story Mania entrance on the other side of Pixar Place. So all that used to be connected.
Cool. Okay.
And so anyway, and the Golden Girls, set back there, and the different houses and all that kind of stuff. The residential street, all that was in that same area. So, but they tore down the residential street to make room for the Lights, Motors, Action, which was then torn down to make room for Galaxy's Edge.
Wow. Amazing, isn't it, really? Okay.
Yeah, it really is.
Okay, cool. I know we've not got a lot of time, Josh, but there's so much to ask you, but I'll just whiz through some important things just about the attractions that are there. Maybe I should have started with this. I just don't know where to begin. Okay. So obviously I've heard about Smuggler's Run, Rise of the Resistance. I wondered if you knew anything about those two attractions specifically, if they link to anything we've seen before. Because, like, for example, Dinosaur, I've never been on that. That's way, way after the time I was there. And obviously Flight of Passage, would that be like Smuggler's Run? I wonder if you could help with that. You knew about these attractions.
From what I've seen on Smuggler's Run, it will be, simulators. I believe they said 6 people on a simulator. Don't quote me on that exactly. I'm not sure, but from what I've seen, they're going to have kind of a giant Omnimax, not a giant, but an Omnimax kind of a wraparound screen, a screen for each vehicle. And so each vehicle, the cockpit, right in front of the iconic cockpit windows of the Millennium Falcon. Of course, everybody's going to have those iconic, that cockpit view that you're so used to seeing in the shows there of the Falcon. And then in front of that will be the screen, which will, show you where you're going. And of course, the simulator will move, from there. But I think that they had some, and if you look on the internet, I can't remember, but I think they had some video of where the screens were. So that was kind of surrounding the nose of the simulator. And there are going to be a lot of those that they're building. And I wish I could remember. There was more to it than that, but the cockpit is going to be photorealistic. Each cockpit is going to be photorealistic to what you see in the movies. I mean, every switch, every knob, every button, everything is going to be there. And actually, it's not like Star Tours, because Star Tours you're passively just watching the ride. And Mission Space is another simulator, where you're obviously in space as well. But Mission Space, you have to do some things. You have to push a button to, blast off, second stage rocket, or to fire lunar, whatever. You have to do some things in Mission Space, but no matter if you push the buttons or not, the ride does the same thing. So you really are not doing anything. Even if you don't push it, the ride keeps going. Whereas Smuggler's Run is going to have different things happen. I don't know how many different possibilities or combinations of ride sequences there are, but it will change based on what you do. So if you don't do the right things, it will change. And I don't know that it's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be video game like, where you would score points if you did it well or you didn't do it well, but I think it will change the outcome of the story if you don't fly the ship correctly, or if you don't follow the instructions. So that's one thing I think I could compare it to, is that it's going to be like Mission Space, except for, it matters what you do. And I think that's really cool.
Okay. Cool, man. There's just so much going on. It seems so complicated, but they've got they're the industry leaders in terms of theme park technology, so they know what they're doing. But it's just crazy. It's just mind-boggling, really. But it just has to be open for us to understand what they're doing.
Sure.
The other cool stuff that I noticed was the food, and what is it, Ronto roasters, and this. Oh man, the Ogre's Canteen are fantastic. I mean.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to go to the cantina and get some blue milk and whatever else. Like, it's gonna be awesome.
But that's the thing I was trying to say before as well, Josh. I was trying to explain, like, for my channel now, I have a 20-second outro, like most people do, but I have a locked off shot on Tatooine somewhere. So just in the Jundland wastes, in the desert somewhere, outside Mos Eisley, at Mos Espa from Phantom Menace. And it's funny, when I watched Phantom Menace, I'd just been to Animal Kingdom. And I remember thinking that then, this is way before the Disney acquisition, I thought to myself, man, Star Wars, they could make a theme park out of all this stuff, And here we are now. Yeah. It's not exactly a theme park, but it's a land. But you know what I mean? It's fantastic. There's so many things to see and do. I can't wait.
I'm super excited to see what they do with it. And I also recognize the difficulties in building Star Wars. I was kind of thinking when they talked about what worlds they could do, and I thought, okay, well, they can't do Hoth in Florida. That wouldn't work. It would be definitely unauthentic. They built Blizzard Beach, but that's kind of tongue-in-cheek. You can't do something serious like Star Wars and say, okay, we're in sub-zero, freeze-to-death temperatures. Yeah, no, it's not going to work. So, an indoor is hard just because of, the scale of the trees, and it would just come off looking cheap. You can't build hundreds of feet tall, redwood type trees. Like, that would come off looking kind of cheap. So yeah, I think there's a lot of, in Naboo, I mean, it would be beautiful, but it'd be very similar. A lot of it would be similar to Pandora in the lush waterfalls and forests and things like that. It's not exactly the same, but it's on. So I think
this would just have everything, wouldn't it? A bit of everything in there, I suppose.
And part of me is like, okay, what else could they do? That's what I'm thinking. What else could they do with this? And are they thinking of doing anything else? I don't know. But I haven't come up with anything really as far as what other lands, what other Star Wars universe, what other parts of the Star Wars universe could they build? It'll be interesting to see, but I haven't come up with anything. So.
Yeah, and I suppose that hotel will be a bit like that as well. I suppose they'll do it like you're out in outer space or whatever. So it's, it'll just be fantastic. Like, when you're walking through the Star Tunnel in Space Mountain, it'll just be like that, but all the time when you're asleep, and it's crazy, amazing.
Yes, that'll be pretty awesome.
Did you see, out of interest, Josh? Did you see the animatronic for what's he called now? Hondo Anako? I hope I've got that name right there.
Yes, I did see that.
Wow, that looks pretty awesome. And I was thinking how cool it is that. Well, I think characters like that, when the Clone Wars came out, that animated thing. I don't know if you've seen any of that, but that was before the Disney acquisition. But all that stuff that's all George Lucas's ideas, but. Again, it just fits into it always has fitted in with Disney potential attractions and stuff like that. But I just thought about Hondo being a space pirate, Pirates of the Caribbean, potential for so many good things there, man. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty insane.
Yeah.
And some of the technology, like I said, they're going to use the Rise of the Resistance is said to have close to 100 animatronic figures, 50 of which are stormtroopers that will rush at you at some point, and I think it's going to look pretty real, so they're going to have some pretty amazing things. And if you haven't seen the buildings for these, the building for Rise of the Resistance is massive. I mean, it's almost like you could fit several aircraft in it. I mean,
Wow.
It's just insanely huge.
Man, I don't know what. Wow, who knows what's going to happen? Wow, speechless there on that one, Josh. I don't know what to say other than wow. And you'll be there. You'll be able to see it all, and we look forward to seeing it on your channel, man. Fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Star Tours. What are they going to do with that now? What with them opening a new Star Wars land? Is that a little bit out of place now, even though it's iconic?
Well, there's been some talk about that, and it doesn't. What they're talking about doesn't make me very happy. But I love Star Tours, and I think it is a bit dated. So there is this I haven't heard anything about, but there is a thought that they could refurbish it into a different Star Wars attraction. But I haven't heard anything about that. But if they want to keep Star Tours where it is and keep it similar, maybe update the film or whatever else they could update. They could add new animatronics and things fairly easily if they want to keep it just as a simulator. But I have heard about them possibly closing Muppets in the whole Grand Avenue area, adding more Star Wars attractions in that area, the whole Grand Avenue. And just making that all the Star Wars area. Originally, there were rumors even the Echo Lake area with the dinosaur and everything would be closed, and then that would be almost the entire land of Star Wars, and that that they would even have different worlds, and that like maybe the Echo Lake would be turned into some kind of a Dagobah type thing, and you'd see Yoda and everything else. So there were some pretty cool blue sky ideas, but I don't think they're going to encroach on that much of the park.
Okay.
And I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, but they could. I could see them somehow incorporating Star Tours into that area. Now, if they really wanted to do it well, they could make Star Tours almost like the flight to Galaxy's Edge from Earth, but then you'd have to wait in line just to get into the land, and that's not practical.
Awesome, man. And yeah, very quickly, can I just say thank you again for joining me tonight? I really appreciate your time. What with you hitting 50,000 subscribers now, you must be a really busy man. So thank you for your time.
Well, yeah, we are for sure, but we're, like I said, I'm happy to talk and
Nice.
talking about things that I'm excited about too. So I can't wait to see what they do with it. Honestly, it's funny because just really quick talking about it from a theme park blogger's perspective. I'm caught between two worlds because I want to enjoy it as a guest, but I also want to show it to everybody else. And then, of course, you can probably guess with the vlogging community, there's this kind of friendly competition to see who gets it first.
Oh, yeah.
And so part of me is nervous. What if we don't get it in on, whatever? What if we don't get in right away? What if we don't get cell phone signal and we can't do a live stream? What if I can't, whatever. So there's all these things in my mind about, what if I don't show it well enough? What if, I don't know. So there's, so there is part of me that's really excited and part of me that's nervous. Like, okay, this is one of the biggest things that Disney's done in well over a decade. And so part of me is like, okay, you got this, channel and it's really growing. Don't screw this up.
Yeah. But the thing is, at the end of the day, I can understand where you're coming from because I think all of us, like even with new figures or whatever, or stuff, collecting stuff that I deal with, there's a little bit of competitiveness who can get it out first. But then again, if you do it in your style as you've been doing, it's a win-win, really, isn't it, for you? Because that's just that's what makes your channel great. You do it differently from anyone else.
Well, we certainly try, but that's we try and stay on top of our game, and that's why I kind of push myself pretty hard to do things really
Awesome.
as well as possible.
Well, keep up the good work, Josh. Keep up the good work. One last question for you. Actually, I think I might have put it in the message when I first put it to you to join me on the podcast today. But do you have any favourite Star Wars characters just in particular? I think you might have said Tatooine was your favourite land. I'm sure I saw that in a vlog, which it's mine.
Yes, it was my favorite
too.
land.
It's got to be everybody's.
I think it's very just that whole area, but it's very mysterious, but it's just very iconic, and that's where I first fell in love with Star Wars. I think most people, that is where you fell in love with Star Wars. It's where it's where the first movie starts. So that being movie 4, of course. But anyway, as far as favorite characters, I would say that Yoda's probably my favorite character.
Cool.
Just because he's so powerful and yet so unassuming about it. I have a lot of respect for old and wise people that also are a lot more powerful than you think they are, and that's kind of, I don't know, I just love that idea. I love the concept of Yoda. He's so wise, he only uses his power when he absolutely has to, when he goes off on Count Dooku and and the one part, so I mean, I just love Yoda. I think he's amazing, so.
Subscribe you must to Josh and Jenna.
one. Sorry.
Yes, that was really good. Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I love Yoda. Yeah, there's so many great characters. It's really hard. It's like asking somebody, what's your favourite album or your favourite song? You know, it depends on how you feel or what's going on with you,
Right.
but you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, there's reasons to love all the characters in Star Wars. You know, even Darth Vader. You know, I can respect the struggle that he went through and why he turned bad, and then at the end the repentance right before he died.
Yeah.
You know, that's very powerful, and I think that's why people relate to the stories. There's just very powerful parts of the story.
Yeah, it's like Carrie Fisher said, you know, God rest her soul. She said, you know, it's about family, you know, and it's so true. It is, isn't it? The struggle of between parents and whatever, growing up and moving on with life. It's all of that, isn't it? It's a family film. It's
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's real. It's sci-fi, but it's about basic human struggles and values. And I think you know, George Lucas did a beautiful job of incorporating the sci-fi into, but making it real. The struggles, the conflicts, everything is very real and relatable. Even though the technology, space travel, not relatable to us at this point. You know, at least not on that level. But the struggles and the conflicts are very relatable.
Absolutely. And speaking of family, of course, you and Jenna are family, a brother and sister, a family. It's a lovely channel you have, Josh, just want to say again. And would you do me a massive favour? Could you pass on my regards and love to Jenna, please, as well?
I definitely will. I'm going to speak to her in just a few minutes. So
Awesome.
I definitely will. I appreciate that.
That'd be cool because, you know, you must see so many people on the live chat, but every now and again I'll get a, hey, only one Kenobi. So
I try.
No, that was me. I was supposed to be doing Jenna's voice there. But you as well. I remember the first time you saw my name, you said, hey, I love that name. So that was awesome, man. Thank you. Oh, Josh, thanks so much for joining me today. And for anyone who's just listening, if we want to find you, Josh, if you could just give us your details of your channel, that'd be awesome. Any links that we need to know?
Yes, it is. If you just go to youtube.com/Resort TV1, and that's the number 1, or if you just go to the YouTube search bar and literally just type in Resort, it will fill in TV1. And so luckily we're a recommendation. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. We are Resort TV1 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well, but our main platform is YouTube.
Awesome, and I'm going to obviously leave a link in the description as well. Thank you once again, Josh. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
No problem, man. And this has been Only One Kenobi. Thank you for listening. Smash the like button and check out Resort TV1. Out.